Coffee. I love coffee. Said every YouTuber ever. Alright, so today I have this little guy with a big heart with me here, and I'm going to talk about 5 things that I love about it. So let's start with the obvious things that I love about this camera, the dials that it has right here. It's a retro camera, the look of it is retro, and it has these dials like cameras used to have. You have the ISO dial right here, you have the shutter speed right here, and you have the exposure compensation right here. What's good about these dials is that you don't have to look at the screen in order to change the ISO, change the shutter speed, and change exposure compensation. The camera also has this little display here to show you your aperture, like old Nikon's, film Nikons used to have. And so if you're into street photography, portrait photography, product photography, whatever you're into, these dials are fun to use, and you don't have to look at the screen. You just set your ISO here, just set your shutter speed here, or if you're shooting in aperture priority, shutter speed priority, you can change your exposure compensation right here. So that's the first thing I love about this camera. The second thing I love about this camera, and that is obvious as well, is the size of it. So yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer that it doesn't have a grip here, but the size is very nice. It can fit in your small bag or even in your pocket without the lens if you want to carry it without the lens. It's very thin without the lens, so it can fit in your pocket or your small bag, and you can carry it when you travel. You don't have to carry a big setup. Okay, so now that we have those obvious ones out of the way, let's take a look what's inside. So the third thing that I love about this camera is the image quality, the full frame image quality. Now, you don't need a full frame. If you don't have a full frame, if you have a crop sensor camera, they're great as well. I have a couple of crop sensor cameras, and I use them for professional work and for fun. So they're very good as well. But this one does have a full frame image quality. Full frame sensor, 24 megapixels or so sensor, and that will give you very large photos, large enough photos, and the colors on this camera are amazing. They're great. I love it. And the 4K video has 4K video, 4K 60. It is cropped, but you will get amazing image quality on this camera. And that leads me to the next point, and that is the 10-bit video in this camera. This is one of the main things why I bought this camera. It is the only sort of affordable Nikon camera that has 10-bit internally, right? So we don't have a big setup with a recorder and monitor on top. You can just take this camera, traveling, take a video of beautiful sky and the sea and the ocean and the beach and whatever you're taking videos of, and it'll give you 10-bit that you can then get really nice colors in post. And then we go to the last thing that I love about this camera. I mean, there's plenty to love about this camera, but a lot of the features other cameras have as well, and I had in other cameras, but some of these features I've never had in other cameras. And the last thing is the IBIS. I've never had IBIS in any of my cameras before this one. So why do I like IBIS? I used to say, oh, IBIS is not, you can have a gimbal, you can have stabilized lenses and all that stuff. IBIS, you don't need IBIS. I used to say that. But then I changed my mind. Why? Well, I traveled and I would take my cameras with me, and I would always need a gimbal. I didn't want to carry a gimbal all the time. I didn't want to carry extra equipment all the time wherever I travel, wherever I go. And not all lenses are stabilized, like this one is not, and many more are not. Yes, I can fix it in post and add stabilization in post, but then that crops in a little bit, and the result is not always perfect. It's not always great. Sometimes you get the wobble, sometimes weird things happen. And so I thought, well, IBIS is actually pretty good to have. It takes out the micro jitters and you get a stabilized video that looks great. So that's the last thing that I love about this camera. And like I said, I love many things about this camera, but those are the ones that stand out for me and make my life easier as a photographer and videographer. And so this is the end of this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.